March CPI and PPI data to come this week as the inflation battle is back in the spotlight. Will this be the data point the Fed uses to pause at its next meeting? Earnings season kicks off as well, with the big banks set to get things going again on Friday before the market opens. Retail sales, Michigan consumer sentiment releases also back on the docket. We're set for another important week for stocks after the latest tech-led rally took a bit of a pause last week following 3 straight positive weeks. It's your weekly bite-sized market prep, the week ahead preview right now. The week gets going on a quiet note for company-specific headlines, but we'll focus on economic releases, starting with wholesale inventories for February. That comes up at 10 a.m. We'll also watch the consumer inflation expectation release for March as well. That's 11 a.m., being closely tied to the current conditions. Both have moved the overall market in the past couple of releases. All right, let's go on to Tuesday. There are a few earnings reports to make note of pre-market, starting with grocery retailer Albertsons, ACI, and used car dealer KMX. The stock could be volatile as the company recently announced plans to pause its current share buyback program and also delayed planned store openings as it continues on its recovery plan. Most analysts are expecting another difficult quarter for KMX. During the session then on Tuesday, we'll keep both Moderna and CrowdStrike shares on watch. mRNA is set to host its Vaccine Day event for analysts and investors. That'll get going at 8 a.m. Eastern. On to Wednesday we go, with inflation returning to the spotlight as we get the latest reading on inflation, with CPI set to come through at 8:30 Eastern. It will be the latest data point that the Fed will watch closely, coming off Friday's non-farm payrolls report as well. Last month, data showed inflation fell in February for the 8th straight month. This has been a can't-miss trade for traders for more than a year now. Meanwhile, the CME Fed Funds tool continues to show the market preparing for the Fed to pause at its next meeting, coming up in May, with a 60% chance now of a pause versus just 40% in favor of another 25 basis point hike. Shortly after the data comes out, then we'll also get a closer look as to what the Fed was discussing at its last meeting. The release of the minutes from the latest Fed meeting come through at 2 p.m. Eastern. The market will be looking for further clarity as to how aggressive the Fed plans to be going forward with rate hikes. The Fed has maintained its continued hawkish tone in comments and moves, with even the last release of this kind maintaining a higher for longer narrative once again. Wednesday afternoon, we'll also keep Warner Brothers shares in mind. The company has scheduled a special press event that will get going at 1 p.m. Eastern, again for WBD. And just like that, it's Thursday. We'll see more notable earnings set to be released pre-market, with both Delta and Fastenal set to report earnings. DAL shares will be on watch as the company will look to snap a 3-year-long quarterly earnings slump with its latest report. Most analysts are positive on the stock going into earnings, highlighting that the airline's ability to take advantage of pre-pandemic demand levels continues to lead the class. More key inflation data is also set to be released before the start of trading at 8:30 Eastern. We'll get the latest look on the producer price index for March. Last month, the PPI release also added to the argument that inflation is continuing to cool, with producer prices falling for the 2nd straight month in February. More jobs data is also set to come through at 8:30 Eastern, with initial and continuing jobless claims for the prior week, both also set to be released. On to Friday we go. We'll wrap things up for the week with the official kickoff of Q1 earnings season. Big banks will lead off the earnings parade once again. We'll get Citigroup, we'll get JP Morgan, we'll get Wells Fargo, all set to report before trading gets underway on Friday. With the recent volatility and uncertainty in regional banks specifically, the market will have a microscope on all of these reports. Here's a look at a significant date calendar coming up in the coming weeks for regional banks. On the economic front on Friday, we'll look to March retail sales month over month at 8:30 coming through. We'll also get March import-export prices at 8:30. April Michigan consumer sentiment, the preliminary reading at 10 a.m. During the session Friday as well, MVIS shares, along with retail favorite and EV name FFIE, could be volatile. Both are set for investor events coming throughout the day. As always, we'll bring you all the action live daily on TraderTV.Live.